This band? I like this band. I wrote it down so I don't forget who they are. Oh, I remember. Fucking Slash!
Hey everybody, Metal Horror Madman here, and I'm with one of my favorite guys from the scene. He knows everything about death metal, thrash metal. He knows everything about metal in general. This guy's been in the scene. He knows the scene. He's seen everybody. Seen how I use that word scene? From 128 DB Rock, Carcass John, The Crypt, Alter Ego. You gotta give it a listen. He plays the hard songs, the heavy. He's not messing around. This ain't Kip Winger and Chips Enough here. This is the real deal. John, how are we doing today?
Yeah, we're doing great. Thanks for that introduction. I don't think I mean, vociferous doesn't even begin to describe it, but I can use big words like that because I actually went to college despite being a metalhead for most of my life.
That's the thing too. Another college guy here. People think I live out in the woods, in a tree trunk, and I made my way by screaming and intimidating everybody. And looking at you, you're a guy that you look intimidating, but little do they know. Little do they know, John. We're just jolly guys having a good time with metal.
Exactly. And that's the thing. And you and I have talked off air about a lot of stuff. And then you kind of blindsided me with this whole idea of worst record, worst band, worst whatever. I mean,
yeah.
I know that music in general, art or what have you, because I'm an artist by trade. I have a graphic design degree from college and whatever, and I use it. And even though I was in the landscape business, I used it every day. Paint on canvas, plant in bed. I mean, it's just design, right? It's all the same concepts. But music is a little more subjective than that, but I mean, I can rant with the best of them.
Yeah, this is our personal opinion, right? Our garbage may be someone else's gold, and vice versa.
Exactly, and one thing I always tell my kids and the Queen: just because it's popular doesn't mean it's good. And I think that's the breaking point for where the roads split and fork. And when you go left or you go right, I always take the left-hand path. Thank you, Entombed. But there's a lot of popular music out there. A lot of music that sells. But is it good?
Right.
In my opinion, man, I'm scrounging in the back street, back alley bars, and in the 100-cap rooms, and helping the guy load his amp in because he's looking for $5 worth of gas money to get to the next city. To me, Those bands are the ones that are more impressive to me. But I don't know. What do you think? How do you want to do this?
I mean, I'll just pick it. Let's maybe most disappointing albums. Maybe that's a good way to do this. Disappointing albums, and I can go back in time to me and my dirtbag friends in our Trans Am back in the 90s, and a band Skid Row that just came off of Slave to the Grind, which they went from glam to pure metal. They had all that power in there. They felt the change in the scene. They knew it was coming, and they dropped Subhuman Race, which is a subhuman piece of garbage. That album, my ears are still ringing. I took that album, John. This is a true story. And I took the CD. We were like 4 songs deep, and we threw the CD out the window of the Trans Am on the Long Island Expressway in Long Island, Strong Island, home of suffocation. That album and I get what they were trying. I don't put that album down. They said it. They wanted to get like Pantera. They wanted to change it to Pantera, but that was their biggest mistake. They're not Pantera. And I remember those articles back then, and that album just missed. It was like alternative. It was metal. It was rock. It wasn't Seb Bach's vocal range. And for me, severely disappointing, and just one of the worst pieces of music I ever spent my $18.99 on that CD at Nobody Beats the Wiz out of business.
Of course. Well, and I saw a Skid Row on that tour. In fact, they were on SNL, and they were, and I'm like, they finally found it. Slave to the Grind's a great record, and it's heavy. And then I don't know what they were thinking, but once again, we can go back to my nemesis, Metallica. They had the 3 most iconic starters: 1, 2, 3, Kill 'Em All, Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets. And then the wheels started, the lug nuts got loose with Injustice for All, and that whole thing with Jason Newsted and cutting out his bass and all that. And then by the time the Black Album rolled around, I was just like, I can see what they're doing. When bands decide to make money and not music. And believe me, I believe all bands should make money. You should get paid for whatever they do. But this was an earth-shattering switch. And I remember I used to do some reviews for Combat and for MCA and for whatever back in the day, and they would send me demos out and say, what do they call them, promotional tapes? Yes, tapes. And they would say, well, what do you think? What about the direction of the band? What do you think of the new direction, the new singer, the new whatever? And I remember they sent me this promo pack of Metallica Saint Anger, and they said this is the heaviest, fastest, most brutal Metallica to date. And I'm thinking, well, okay, because I didn't like where they were going.
Right.
And so I made the mistake of watching the DVD first.
Oh.
And I thought, well, the DVD's kind of cool because they play pretty much all those songs in studio, and it sounded great. It sounded okay. And I thought, it's not earth shattering. It's just not groundbreaking or anything, but it's okay. And then I stuck the CD in, and very rarely do I just hit to the next song, hit to the next song, hit to the next song, hit to the next song. I was so disappointed.
Yep.
That thing is a piece of crap. And I thought, and I can't even spin it now. I've gone back to it and kind of listened to the songs. I like the songs. And the only reason is because I've heard some of them played live. It's kind of like on that first Destruction album, where the production's so terrible that some people get tainted by the pure sonic crap that they are hearing.
Right.
But when you hear those songs played live, and when you hear those songs updated on some of their, I like bands that go in and re-record their greatest hits. They don't just splash them out on another CD. And when Destruction did that, I had an appreciation for those songs because they were killer songs. They just didn't sound good at the time. You could say the same thing about Bonded by Blood by Exodus. But this thing with Metallica was so bad that it literally turned my stomach.
Yeah.
I just thought, and I got rid of it. I did the same thing with Testament Demonic.
Okay,
I'm like, what are they doing? What are they doing here? I mean,
see now, John, not to interrupt you, but see now, also I think it depends on different times when we got into these bands. Because for Metallica, for me, right, and Justice for All is my favorite Metallica album, believe it or not. I don't care about the bass. I would listen to DJ Jazzy Jeff if I want the bass. When I was in school, the Black Album hit. So Sad But True is one of my favorite albums. Sad songs. Load and Reload, I hated. I hated the change. I hated the music. Saint Anger, I hate the tin cans.
Wait,
I hate using chopsticks. Please.
Did you use eyeliner and wear a fedora when you listened?
I did. If I did, maybe I would have.
You would have had a greater appreciation.
And people don't understand right at that time how drastic that. Because even though the Black Album was light, they still looked like Metallica. They looked badass. They changed. The hair was down. These guys looked intimidating. And that came out. And now with Testament, my first Testament experience, my first concert was Low, 1994. So I actually liked Demonic because I liked all the death metal growls. But in hindsight, from where you're coming from, I totally understand that because one of the things with Testament is Chuck Berry's voice, right? That vocal range. You hear the New Order.
Yeah, I
got you.
And once again, it's all about perspective. I mean,
right.
I heard Testament, Exodus, and Violence play at the Death Angel demo tape release party out in the Bay Area. So I was there kind of in the midst of it before it was ever big. And so that's what I was used to. Now, do I flex enough to kind of hear the progression or the digression? Yeah, but I want to, like Overkill.
Yep.
Name a stinker from Overkill. Name one.
Yeah, and I think they've been one of the people will say I Hear Black, right? People will say because they lightened up. That's all that era of Testament, the Ritual, Exodus, Force of Habit, right? When everything lightened up. And then I've had people not like that first one on CMC International that I love. I don't have any bad Overkill myself. I agree. But there are people that will say I Hear Black. I've heard people tell me that album's horrible. I strongly disagree.
I strongly disagree too. And the fact of the matter is they slowed down.
Yes.
But they didn't put out a bad record. And so those are the same people telling you that Metallica still 72 seasons is still great. No, it's not.
It's not.
If you think I Hear Black is bad, then everything after the Black album from Metallica is sucks. I mean, Death Magnetic was it was a nice attempt, but
it was.
And the songs don't need to be 9 minutes long. I'm sorry, they just don't need to be.
That's one of the that's another great point. Like Iron Maiden, right? And I'm a big Maiden fan. I got the tattoo here. I got one here on the leg, but I haven't liked like when I go see Maiden and they go play whatever that last album was with the Souls or whatever. Those songs since really like when they had X Factor with Blaze Bayley, they decided there were going to be these 9-minute. They took the metal out of the songs.
I think
Priest still has metal, right?
They wanted to be Blind Guardian or something, which is weird.
Right.
And if you like Blind Guardian, so be it. I mean, not since their first EP and the first album have I liked Blind Guardian, but that's just me. And that's the thing about it. You and I have talked about this. I don't give a rat's patoot what your taste is. If that's your taste, that's your taste. You have the freedom to listen to whatever you would listen to. Limp Bizkit, I don't care. I actually kind of like Limp Bizkit every now and then. Now, is it my go-to? No. People said the same thing. I had a guy who stopped me about Opeth because I had mentioned that Pale Communion was one of my top 20 Island records of all time. And they're like, how can you say that? They're not gurgling and gargling anymore. Okay. But it sounds like Deep Purple playing jazz fusion to me, and I love it. And Michael Ackerfeld can actually sing. Who'd have thought it? And so, to me, it's a great record. Do I like Orchid better? Do I like Blackwater Park? Sure, I do. But that doesn't. But see, you could hear the natural progression in the Opeth records. But I think the Metallica one is the most glaring because it was so drastic. From the first three to what it became. And why does it take 5 or 6 years to write a record if you're a good metal band? You know what I mean? Unless you're just on hiatus.
I think what happens to some bands, right? And I've seen this in all different genres. Look at this. This episode was. I think what we're trying to tell all of you, there is no worst out. It's definitely perspective, and I think a lot of these bands like Metallica's, AC/DC's, it becomes a corporation at some point, and it just becomes about X amount of years. Put out the album. The album's only there to me. When I see those albums by those bands, it's the promoter tour. Put out some music, get some hype out there, promote a tour. Everyone goes to the concert. They hear one new song. Oh, man, this doesn't sound bad. They go home. They're all hyped. By the second day, you're never listening to that album again. And I've seen that with people. And I had an argument with people too, John. I don't know how you feel about this, but like a lot of the legacy bands, why even put out music, right? Because a lot of them just don't hit. And it comes out, and these albums are, and you go spend $40 on a vinyl that no one's going to want in 10 years. Yeah. No one's going to ask you for the latest of any of these bands. They're not going to care about them. You're buying worthless material. And I get for the younger fans, I understand it. I understand the legacy bands and the hype, but they're going to be forgotten albums.
And once again, and that would take us down a whole nother path of endless discussion of when should a band call it quits. Honestly, once again, I'll harken back to Metallica. I saw them when they had Dave Mustaine and Ron McGovney playing live. And so my perspective is much different. They've lost the savagery. They've lost their soul. They lost their best songwriter. And they've just become, like you said, a big corporate machine. I get it. I want bands to make money. I had on the Metal Roundtable one day, we had Dave Sanchez from Havoc. He said, please buy a t-shirt, buy a CD. Yeah. Because we're not making any money on Spotify. I mean, it takes 300,000 streams of one song to make what they would make on one t-shirt sale. I mean, that's ridiculous. And so my heart is, I want to see the band live. First of all, I want to see if they can actually pull this off. And that's what I love about death metal and thrash and grindcore. Either you can or you can't. And so I'm going to go there live, and I'm going to see if they are, an American or
Right.
a
Or
Mexican.
Mexican.
And that's how I support the bands. Do I buy stuff online? Sure. Do I go to a
Right.
local record store? Yeah, I would. I like to support the mom and pop. Do I buy on Amazon or from Walmart or from whatever? Not generally. I want to buy it I want to put the money in the guy's hand and say, I can't wait to see you guys come back.
It's true. It's true. And it's why I love talking and staying connected with all the new bands, the young bands that are out there. And that's where all their money's coming from. And everything, like you said, it's impressive. See, I just saw Metallica last year, John. I loved it. I felt like I was back in time. I felt like that. And I get it. And I'm there and I'm looking at the song selection. And the same thing when I saw Maiden. And I watched the crowd go. I watched James goes, who bought our new record 72 seasons? This was at Gillette. It wasn't the Five Finger Death Punch day because I wouldn't go to that garbage. But he said that, and the place said nothing. And James is like, it's an all right record. We're going to play one anyway. And the place just deflated. Like the whole thing went down. And I've watched that when I saw Maiden last time. They're playing Run to the Hills. Everyone's tearing things apart. And then they play a new one, and it's just quiet. And then they play another new one, and it's quiet. And I understand they all put effort into these things, or the corporations pushing these albums. They still want to sell units. But it's one of those things of perspective of when you got into a band, what you're willing to accept, right? What I think we all have bands too where we're like, they're allowed to make some of it. Like, I'm an Alice Cooper super fan, and he hasn't had a great album in 20 years. But I still... Until he got back with the old gang. And I either will take any of those albums, John, and I'll find something good for me because I love him that much. So every album he's put out, to me, has great stuff on it. But to other fans, no. They just don't like it. So I think when you said perspective, that's why I'm bringing it back. There is no good or bad. It's what you feel it is, right? I mean,
right. No, I totally agree. In fact, it's not that I hate new bands. I don't. I love new bands. I love, Blood Incantation. They shot straight to the top, and we've seen them live. And I took the Queen with me. We went. She'd never seen them before. She's like, these songs are long, blah blah. And I said, you just sit there. Open your ears, open your heart, open your mind, and just be prepared to get blown away. And those guys, despite the fact that they put out these ambient records, all that ambient stuff's in the right smack in the middle of their death metal.
Right.
And they're uncompromising.
Yeah.
They tell you, hey, look, we're putting out an ambient record. If you don't like it, whatever, we're putting it out. And they put it out. I would buy anything. I would buy anything that they put out without even asking.
Yeah.
And there are other bands like that, like Mortuous, Mortiferum, Tomb Mold. There's a band from Denver that we had no clue who they were. They jumped on. They're called Oryx, Oryx. The Queen is not one to be short of words, especially at a metal show because she gets into it. I think I mentioned that Cannibal Corpse was one of her favorite bands. And so that's the kind of person we're talking about here. She stood there like a statue for 40 minutes when Oryx was playing. And then when they were done, she turned to me and she says, I think my soul just left my body. They were so good.
Yeah.
And so, and that's the other thing. I usually go early.
Okay.
I go early to every show I can because I want to know who's on the undercard. I want to know who the local band is. I want to know who's never played before. Yeah. And I want to, because you never know what you're going to discover. And we could get into the fair weather fans and who, whatever. But once again, just because you're going to see the headliner because they're popular doesn't necessarily mean that they're the best band on the bill.
Right.
And so,
it's usually not the case, right?
No, then there you have it. And I don't know how many times in fact, we've even had this discussion with myself and my friends. Well, we could go early, see these bands, and then we don't have to stick around for the, Five Finger Death Punch.
Yeah.
Because
I refuse to see that band. If they're at a festival, I won't be there When the Metallica did 2 nights, I was like, I'm not going to be there when they're there. I have vowed to never see them. I cannot stand that band. I cannot stand the fakeness, the weak riffs, the attitude. It's all propaganda, garbage metal to me. It's just a show, and they lean on the military, right? So they'll use that like, well, if you don't like them, you're anti. And I'm like, I listen to music. That's another thing with music and me. I listen to music. If I like the music, I listen to it. If I don't, I don't. I don't try and get into every single thing someone's into. I don't need to know what kind of cereal they have for breakfast. I don't need to know who they voted for. I mean, if we got to know every band, I feel like if we got to know, we'd probably hate everybody, right? Everybody has skeletons in their closet.
Well, and that's what's so weird about this new society is that everyone's so judgmental, and you know what he did as a kid, and then they cancel him. But I'm thinking to myself, to your point, if you knew all the dark secrets and skeletons and miscues that those people have done, we would be sitting in an empty room by ourselves, staring at the wall, going, "Well, we can't like anybody because they were inappropriate when they were younger." It's absolutely ridiculous. We have to sort of compartmentalize. Obviously, if somebody is doing the sing heil or doing something absolutely positively racist, that's probably pause for Yeah, but if you're canceling a guy for who he voted for, which is our unalienable right to vote for whoever we want. I voted for Ted Nugent one year. I wrote him in because I didn't believe in any of the candidates, and now people were giving me grief, and they're like, Ted Nugent is. I'm like, I don't care what you think.
Right.
That was what I felt like doing. I didn't feel like any of the candidates fit my bill, but you know what? The Motor City Madman at that point in time in my life, that was the guy.
Yeah, and then there's people like me that have never voted and never will. That's just so far outside of the system. Dropped out of high school, went and got my GED, went to college, did everything the hard way in my life because I've always been so far, John, outside of everything. It's even like with bands sometimes when I'm like, I like again, we're all different people, right? I love counterculture. I love being against everything. I'm one of those guys, if you're for it, I'm against it. I'm like as old school as it comes from that kind of stuff. At the same time, I don't care if someone's into right, left. I don't care what their beliefs are spiritual. It's all good to me, man. As long as, like what you said, nobody's hurting somebody. Nobody, and you can't lump everything in. That's another problem we have. Somebody does one thing that's not that bad, and they lump it in with the worst possible people of all time, and that's not healthy for anybody. And I've heard every band, I've heard some fan somewhere go, that person's a scumbag. That person, and I go, every one of us at one point of our life, if you zoom into a time, we've all had struggles. We've all made mistakes. You would hate us if you judged us on that moment in time, and that's something that's not cool for the scene at all. So. Yeah, that's a good message you have with that. With like, hey guys, a lot of different people.
Yeah, and to take the words from Jamie Josta from Hatebreed, if you don't live for something, you'll die for nothing. Yeah, and so it's okay to have your take on something. It's your right as a human being to think and behave the way you want, as long as you're not infringing on somebody else or breaking the law. I mean, we do have rules for a certain amount of people. My parents used to preach that obedience to laws begets freedom. And I thought, well, what does that mean? Are you kidding me? Well, if you drive 80 in a school zone during school, what's going to happen to you if you get caught? You're going to jail, and you chose to drive that fast. You chose to disobey the law. That was your choice. I have no problem with that. But, come on, let's use a little bit of good judgment here. But
you got to practice what you preach, full circle testament. You got to practice what you preach when you're into metal. And I think it's all good. It's like, so the Misfits, right? I'm Danzig era only. That's the only Misfits I listen to. However, I know people that my sons love the Graves era. They will tell me any day that's the better stuff. That makes me vile. I can't sleep at night thinking about that. But to them, to them, and that's the thing that I love about metal and music, and I feel like we had a scene at one time when people would bust each other's chops, when people would argue who's your favorite band, until it became toxic. So sometimes they'll say to me, Megadeth or Metallica. I'll put up my tattoos. I got Megadeth and Metallica. I got them both. I like them both. I have albums that mean the world to me. Both bands have also really pissed me off. Megadeth Risk, really. I've tried another album. I've tried over time. I've let like Prince of Darkness. I'm like, okay, I can accept it as a song that comes on and I listen to. But when they dropped like Crush 'Em, the Goldberg WCW song,
oh yeah.
it was embarrassing to watch a band with that talent, with Mustaine's playing, just completely abandon everything. And I think that's where, and we just wanted to do something quick here for you guys. We wanted to show you our different perspective. Me and John get along great, and as you see, we have a lot of different takes on things, and that's what we're trying to show you.
And let me just tell you what this whole conversation is going to make me do now.
Yeah.
I told you I didn't like Demonic. I thought that's a terrible record, but guess what I'm going to do? I got it right over here on the wall.
Okay.
I'm going to pull it out. I'm going to listen to it and think, I wonder why the Madman is so mad for this record. And then, you know what? I might hear something that, okay, maybe I overlooked that because of my angst at the time, because it wasn't the New Order. It wasn't the Legacy. It wasn't Practice What You Preach.
John Doe, the song John Doe, I think over time, because he goes back to some of his original vocals. It's different type of music. But yeah, and that's the thing, and that's why I love having conversation, right? And I think me and John are going to start doing a lot of stuff together, and that's why we wanted to do something quick here to see just me and him. We've been on other stuff with a lot of people, but that doesn't let everyone show how they are. And I think that's the thing that's going to make this so good. Is the worst thing you can have is talk to people that just agree with everything, have the same favorite everything. That's how society doesn't advance either, right?
Or when people stop talking to each other.
That's a big thing.
When you don't give each of us a chance to communicate our point, whether we agree or disagree, and then that's when it deteriorates. That's when the festering and the rotting and the corpuscles burst and the infection ensues. And that's all bad stuff, man. And I'm a prime example of you don't have to agree with me. You just have to allow me to be disagreeable. You know what I mean?
It's good, dude.
It's easy.
It's easy, and it's like, so the big, like, I'll do like new metal, right? One of the most controversial things of all time. And I wasn't big on new metal when it came out, because a lot of the things, like we just talked, it was just so different. But over time, I started going, man, I remember where I was with these albums, and I remember where I was with these songs, and I still watch the videos, and they're cringe to the next level. Like the videos are crazy, but so is a lot of the 80s stuff I love. And over time, my thing is going, like, I've really gotten into, a band like Static X and Korn, and like we talked about Limp Bizkit, there's times I want to get hyper and hear those songs. And there's also such a gateway metal. It's such a great thing when I hear these young kids go like, man, this Slipknot album or this Limp Bizkit album. And next thing you know, now to listen to Exhumed, who we both love, and we could probably do a whole episode on that band and that type of music. And you said something great there. You should. We always did. We always disagreed. Growing up, my best friend was a cock rocker, glam rocker. That's everything he was into. And I was the thrash death metal guy. And then what happened over time is we started appreciating different things. And he got into death metal. And I got into stuff like, Cinderella, like Night Songs. That's a banger of an. That's actually more metal than glam. And it's all that kind of stuff. But
well, and John, once again, and to your point on that, some of those bands, Winger, Cinderella, Skid Row, they all got lumped into that hair metal thing.
Right.
And yet some of their stuff was more metal than some of the metal stuff, like even the Saxons and the Innocence is No Excuse. Yeah, but that album there's a lot of excuses on that record, but once again, they were trying to fit in, and see that's kind of where I start to get squeamish around that point, when bands figure, well, we got to fit in. And that's what I love about Blood Incantation, for example, or Opeth for that matter. They don't care about fitting in. They just care about putting out something that's brilliant.
Right.
And whether you think it's brilliant or not, that's what they feel is their best effort at the time, and I'm cool with that. I would rather have a bad, honest record than a fake, false, corporate, popular record. I mean, that's where I draw the line.
Very, very. And you just made me think of a band that was so heavy and so brutal and responsible for so much of the scene that put out an album that was lighter than Cinderella. Cold Lake by Celtic or Celtic Frost, right? That album just destroyed. I remember I'm listening to all their classics, and I'm in a CD store, and I find it for like $1 back then. Now it's worth money, right? Now it's a collectible, an original pressing. But at the time, and playing that, I'm like, this was load before load. They all glammed up. They watered down the music. They had no, you could tell there was no passion in that album. They didn't care, and they were just trying to catch a trend, and it destroyed that band for their legacy for a long time. It's back now, but
I actually have a Cold Lake story because I was at your favorite place, the Milwaukee Metal Fest.
Yeah. And
I'm walking around with Tony Reed from Pentagram because I was on that tour with them.
Nice.
And what an experience. We had talked for months about that. That was really awesome. And once again, we're judging, Bobby Liebling because Bobby Liebling is such a bad guy. Well, no, he's really not. I was on the bus with him for 15 nights in a row. And but anyway, we're walking around, and Tony Reed, this brilliant guitar player and songwriter from Moss Generator, Pentagram, Big Spring Water, and a bunch of other stuff, looks on the wall, and one of the vendors is selling a Celtic Frost Cold Lake shirt. And all he could say to me was, I hope it's a large because I really want that shirt. And what that caused me to do is exactly what I told you.
Go back.
I went back and I said, well, I understand why Tony likes this record. Yeah, and that's cool. It's not going to be the first thing by Celtic Frost that I pull out of the off the shelf and listen to, but I have an appreciation for it now, and so, man, that's what it's all about. And once again, we just sort of stumbled over each other's path, and I find out. I mean, I had no idea we'd be doing this, but I look forward to anything that we're doing in the future. And man, I challenge anybody to come on and have a discussion. I don't call it a debate because we're not that structured, but we're going to have a discussion about it.
Yeah, and and that's what it should be, and that's something everybody, because real quick too is I had a friend one time, and he just said that he goes, man, we got to just split the country in two. No one could get along. I go, that's not true. What happened to the 80s growing up in the 80s on my block, I didn't know who voted for what. I didn't know who liked what. All I knew is we came out every day. All the kids played. All the neighbors, all their dads were out there drinking. All the moms and wives were taking us to the movies. Nobody can. I know now. Looking back, there was drastic differences, but we were just people and community. And I'm glad to see your reaction like that too, because when he said that to me, I go, no, man, that's not that's not how you move forward as a civilization. Not everybody just backs into a corner, and if you don't agree with me, I'm going to start swinging. That's obnoxious. That's not good for the metal scene, as we know, too. That severe gatekeeping is not cool. I like it as a joke, but I mean, even me with Five Finger, if you like that band, awesome. Sit here and like you said, debate with me, argue with me, talk shit about look who my favorite band is, Slayer. They're a very easy target on a lot of this stuff, right? So I'm very passionate about them.
But once again, they got skins on the wall, man.
Right. You can't take away.
Those first 5 releases are untouchable.
Untouchable.
And then everybody forgets about Divine Intervention, which to me, that was the comeback record of the all metal.
Unbelievable, that album in 1994. You know where the scene was, and they just came out, and that is, if Lombardo's on that album, I think it's a different conversation too. You know what I mean? Yeah. A lot of people just disregard that, but I don't mean to cut us off, John, but we're running out of time.
Nope.
It's been great to have you. Where else can everybody find you? Where are you? What times?
I have Instagram, Carcass John Art. You can just see some of my psychedelic meanderings and artwork that I do. I'm also on 128 DB Rock. It's an internet rock radio station, 128db.com. Download the free app. I do the Crypt. They allow me to play anything I want. There are no shackles, no handcuffs, no inhibitions. The Crypt, and just get online, buy yourself a mug, a t-shirt, whatever. I do all my own artwork. always DM me, hit me up on the Instagram thing, send me your requests. It's a great opportunity for me to not only learn the technology side of where we're all going, because I listened to traditional FM and AM radio growing up, and now this is all this streaming and internet radio weirdness, but it's still fun for me to be able to, I mean, I get emails from guys in Saudi Arabia, from Melbourne, Australia, from Japan, from all over the world that appreciate the fact that I'm playing something that they never hear on the radio. So
yeah,
that's the whole premise. And then I have a second show called The Alter Ego, where I just did an episode of, I asked my wife, when were you born? She gave me the year. I went back and looked, and I saw all these great pre-metal bands that I said, you know what, I'm going to pick a deep track from Deep Purple. I'm going to pick a deep track from Starcastle, Aerosmith. And I put them on there, mixed them down for an hour. So it's a departure from the heaviness of the Crypt. But 128db.com, 128db Rock, the Crypt Show, and the Carcass John's Alter Ego. And hit me up on Instagram at Carcass John Art. And man, thank you for doing this, because we're going to have a blast.
We're gonna have a blast, because you don't know what we went through to get this to happen today. We can talk about that in the next episode. But that's why another message we have is here. You just keep moving forward in life, right? You're gonna make mistakes. You gotta learn new things. You gotta challenge yourself. When I tell you, me and John were very frustrated before we just got to do this today. You can see it in our faces. You can hear it in us. And then we do it. We have a great time. And that's my message. Have a good time all the time. Be kind to everybody. Hit John up for some artwork. You're a band. T-shirts out. This guy, he's the real deal. I instantly became friends with him. Like I said, we're very similar and very different, and that's what I love too, because me and him have had nothing but positivity and love and great energy, and I know you guys are gonna too. Until next time, we'll be back chatting. Wait till we have some bands on here and we all get a little dicey. You guys don't forget to thrash. John, thanks for showing up today, man. I love you, and we'll talk again soon. Okay, brother?
Right on. Metal will prevail. Thank you.
Metal